Namaste, Vanakkam, Swagatam. Welcome to the Verandah Club Friday Filter Coffee session. I'm Rajesh Govindarajulu. I'm grateful to all of you for watching this Filter Coffee programs along with all of us. And I've been really fortunate and lucky to meet up with a number of people and also read a number of books. Today's subject is Kadal Tamarai, the biography of the famous founder and editor of Dinamalar Tamil newspaper, T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer. Dinamalar is a very popular newspaper in Tamil Nadu. Crores of people have heard of this name, and they also know that it was founded by the visionary journalist T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer. The book is called Kadal Tamarai. Tamarai means lotus and Kadal means the sea or the ocean. Interestingly, I had the opportunity to establish a tiny lotus bowl in our house today. I think it is purely a divine coincidence to get this done on the day when I'm going to speak about this great man. This biography has been penned by Sri Muthu Krishnan and released by Dinamalar. I got this book on the 23rd of April 2021 from the Coimbatore Dinamalar office. And it was the World Book Day. There are several newspapers in Tamil Nadu, but Dinamalar stands out. How does it stand out? It stands out because it brings out the details and material required for the last person in the last mile. The last person, last mile delivery mechanism, I suppose, was first propounded by the famous newspaper Dinamalar and its founder T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer. Well, T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer, or TVR as he was known, was born in the year 1908. He was born on Gandhi Jayanti. His parents were Ramalinga Iyer and Bhagavati, and he was adopted by Venkatapati Iyer and Avudayammal. Ramsubbaiyyer was married at a very early age to Krishnammal, the daughter of a very wealthy person. The couple were blessed with a number of children: Venkatapati, Krishnamurti, Lakshmipati, Raghavan, and Satyamurti are 5 of their sons. Ramsubbaiyyer founded Dinamalar on the 6th of September 1951 at Thiruvananthapuram. I'm sure all of you will want to know why. And he, during his lifetime, had established 5 editions for the Dinamalar: Tirunelveli, Trichy, Chennai, Madurai, and Erode. The rest of the family established editions at Vellore, Coimbatore, Pondicherry, Nagarkoil, and Salem. He passed away in the year 1984 when he was about 76 years of age. What is TVR all about? What was his life's mission? Why did he take up the newspaper? And what were the causes that he fought for? And who were the people who were associated with him? I'm sure it required not just one book, but say about 10 books. You could possibly prepare a documentary about him, a serialized documentary. And that will be very interesting. First of all, let us get back to the days when he was born. Ramsubbaiyyer belonged to the Nanjil Nadu or the Nagarkoil region, and this was part of the Travancore kingdom. Those days, this region was ruled by the Raja of Travancore. They had their own police force, judiciary, currency, stamp paper, and postal system. We must understand that these kingdoms ruled their territories in a free and independent manner, and it was subject to British sovereignty. In a certain way, they were free, and in a certain way, they were not. Ramsubbaiyyer grew up in that kind of an atmosphere. I have been living in Coimbatore from the time of my birth, and have been a reader of the Dinamalar newspaper from my childhood days. I just remember seeing Dinamalar, one lotus in the center, Niruvanar, meaning founder, T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer. And I remember the columns in the paper, the double Dinamalar on a Sunday, and also the tea kada bench, which is the bench in a tea shop where people talk about local stories and local politics. And I started seeing Dinamalar all the more from the year 2003. On the 11th of June 2003, the Sirutuli was founded in Coimbatore by a set of environment conservationists who are also businessmen and entrepreneurs. And well, Dinamalar came out on its own to support this mission. A lot of good work that was done by Sirutuli was ably supported by Dinamalar. They would give us fabulous coverage. They will tell us, you please go ahead with your work. We are here to support you. What did we give in exchange? Nothing. We just did our work. This was not something that was, sold or bought. The publication had a natural interest in the well-being of the people, and it also had the ability to find out who are all interested in the well-being of the people, and it supported them and their work. When I read this biography of T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer, I understood that the publication has been following the ethos of its founder. T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer had been speaking about the restoration of lakes, ponds, rivers, and all the types of water bodies that were present in our region. He has been doing this for a very, very long time. So for people like me who took up an environmental cause, it came in as a surprise. But when I myself went back into the biography of this great man, I understood that Dinamalar and himself and his other colleagues, sons, family members, chroniclers, journalists, reporters, and correspondents have been working on such themes for the last 70 years. Yes, Dinamalar is 70 years old, and it will be 71 years shortly. And it's very, very interesting. I also observed that as a newspaper, Dinamalar was taking up a lot of interesting local causes. These have also been part of the ethos of Dinamalar for a very long time. I have been to Nanjil Nadu, a very nice and fertile region. I've been lucky to travel from Tirunelveli to Thiruvananthapuram. It took me about 3 hours, and I have been to the Thiruvattar Adikeswar Perumal temple and the Tirupadisaram or Thiruvanpanisaram, Tiruval Marban temple. Both these temples are Divya Desams, according to the Ramanuja Sampradaya. I was wondering why this newspaper was begun at Thiruvananthapuram and not in Tamil Nadu. Then I understood as a student of history that Nanjil Nadu region and its neighborhood were all part of the Thiruvananthapuram Samasthanam or the Travancore kingdom. Tamil speaking people found inside a dominion wherein people spoke Malayalam and Tamil. But they loved Tamil enormously. T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer grew up in that atmosphere. He could have just been a very happy and successful businessman. Why did he have to take this up? That was because of the vision and the noble thought that he had. The author has brought out a small interview from his wife Krishnamal, and that interview talks about this. Krishnamal Ramasubbaiyar tells us that her father was able to identify Ramasubbaiyar as a very capable and visionary person, and that he was very fond of him. And not only that, Ramasubbaiyar spent more time on the laps of his father-in-law than his own son. That speaks volumes about this great soul. Well, we must understand during those troublous times, Nanjil Nadu was part of the Kerala or Malayalam speaking region, and India was under the English speaking rulers. You have to achieve a lot of things. First, to preserve the rights of the Tamil speaking people of Nanjil Nadu, and without compromising with regard to the freedom of the country. And when you like Tamil, you should not hate other languages. Tamil is your mother tongue. It is like your mother. But when you have affection towards your mother, do you hate others? No, definitely not. There's no need to hate somebody when you like someone. This is exactly what Ramasubbaiyar had said. He was a real centrist. He was against untouchability. He was for the development of Nanjil Nadu and the Kanyakumari belt. He wanted people to be well educated. He wanted the socially depressed people to stand up on their own legs. And he did so with aplomb. Hats off to you, sir. First of all, there were too many things that had to be looked into. One is education. Ramasubbaiyar was keen to support the initiative of Sir C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer with regard to education, compulsory education for all. And a lot of people and lot of institutions came up as a consequence of the same. That was one effort. The second effort was Tamil culture and the rights of the Tamil people. It was very important for him. The third was ensuring that the poor and the Dalit people are not made to suffer, and that untouchability is not there at all. Fourth is ensuring that the culture of our country, our traditions are well preserved. One more, while trying to do all this, you should move forward. So he was a fabulous mixture of all these things. I remember reading the story of Chakravarti Vikramaditya. Vikrama era comes out, right? Where there are some statues of women, I think 32 in number, which are attached to the throne. And when somebody had to climb a step, they had to answer one of the questions, and those questions connected with something unique, interesting, good governance, and something which was noble. I'm sure T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer would have been able to, go through all the steps and reach the throne. And knowing him, he would not have wanted to sit on the throne, but he would have ensured that something good happened for the people. Social interest, public well-being were paramount in his mind. See, these are cliched words people will say, and they will say this is what is spoken about everybody else. And these are adjectives, and they are used to describe people. Is it fair to proceed in such a hagiographical manner? Yes, these are valid questions. I have answers for them. If you go through the book, you can understand that it is not hagiographical, and this biography has got a lot of quality, and it has brought the person out in the open. The book is rich with enormous names, information. From N.S. Krishnan to Kavimani Desikavinayakan Pillai to Kripananda Warrior, whose lectures Ramsubbaiyyer used to attend to, we find numerous mentions. He has met M.G. Ramachandran, Kamaraj, and so many others. In a certain way, he had helped an MLA to hide in the Dinamalar office so that he could cast his vote against the Pattom Pillai government in Travancore, and the government collapsed. Very, very interesting. The Tirunelveli, Kanyakumari, Thiruvananthapuram train link, he had fought for it for a number of years, and that took place. He was losing money in the paper, and yet he kept printing it. Losses did not deter him. This is the other very interesting aspect. Public well-being was his concern. Was it just Nanjil Nadu which bothered him? Was it just the rights of the Tamils of Nanjil Nadu which bothered him? Will be the next question. Yes, that did bother him because that was the need of the hour. But the Dinamalar paper has spoken and written about a number of social issues, hundreds and hundreds of them. And you can make a very big list of things in which they have succeeded. So much so, ministers used to carry around the details published in the Dinamalar newspaper in order to address press conferences or go to the assembly or to have meetings or to also ensure that these tasks were well done. Rajaji has given a letter in support or congratulating or felicitating Ramsubbaiyyer on the occasion of its inauguration of Dinamalar. That letter is very interesting. T stands for Tadimar Kovil Gramam and V stands for Venkatapati. The paper had been inaugurated by Vaiyapuri Pillai, the famous Tamil scholar. It was not so easy for Muthukrishnan to collect this information because he had done so after the passing away of T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer. And many of these people who were connected with him and his times were either old or had passed away. It was difficult to find them out. He had tried to contact 164 people, he says. Truly amazing. Commendable job, sir. You've done the right thing by getting out the best of information. We get to see how, people have played a role along with T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer. And there are many. Those names have all been given out here, like, Pa Jivanandam, V. Narayanan, and so many others. And similarly, T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer had also cropped his hair. So he had a haircut collective, I must say, in a time when people were very traditional. But also at the same time, he did not throw away the tradition and culture of our country. His understanding and approach to Hindi was interesting. He felt that English was a foreign language, and this lover of Tamil was a true Indian nationalist. It is very rare to find someone who likes India, who likes Tamil, who wants to be modern, who wants development, but one who wants to preserve the Hindu culture, and one who looks upon social upliftment, and also one who wants to ensure the delivery of the services provided by the government to one and all. You can add many more. It's a very difficult add-on normally. You can put in about 30 to 40 features, all of which cannot be found together in the image, idol, personality, life and soul of T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer. Very, very rare. If you look at people, if they like Tamil language, they will say, I'm against Hindi, I'm against Sanskrit, I'm against Aryans, I'm a Dravidian, and they will talk about the Tamil collective rights. But here Ramsubbaiyyer talks about the duties as spoken by Gandhiji. He also has met V.O. Chidambaram Pillai, and he understood that commercial success of India was very important to throw off the foreign yoke. He was keen to follow Lokamanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak. What a man. And then when you look at every other project that he has taken up, the cause of Nanjil Nadu, first, the rights of the Tamils, the struggles that he went through at a personal level, and the risks that he undertook, the threat to his reporters, to his correspondents, and the journalists who had worked with him in those difficult days. They had raided him, they had searched his premises, they wanted to arrest him, they wanted to assault him and his people. It was not easy. And when we look at all this, here is a man, here is a leader who had really fought for the rights of the Tamils and delivered whatever that he had promised. Yes, here was a man who fought for the safety of the Tamils who were in Nanjil Nadu. And he did so in a very careful manner, calm and composed manner. The guts of steel, I must say. He was never troubled. He faced all adversities. He need not have done this. He could have led a different kind of a life. And, on a number of occasions, he had to stand up against the government of the day, Patom Tanu Pillai. And the government fell. Even in Tamil Nadu, if we see between 1969 and 76, the government did not even release a single advertisement for him and his publication, Dinamalar. But the common man supported Dinamalar through advertisements and subscription. Why did the common man do that? It was because he stood for something that was right and he spoke for them. I was going through some of the stories connected with the agents, my dear friends. Many of these agents were not financially well off when they took up the distribution of the paper. But yet, TVR Ramsubbaiyyer had supported them. One agent says on an occasion that he had not received the newspaper in the morning and he had come to know that was because he had not paid up. He goes to TVR's house, gets it done, and the paper comes. On another occasion, the deposit, monthly installments. One agent wants to buy some land. He says, you are living here, the land is so far away. How will you manage? And finally, the agent sold the land and did something else. And he tells his reporters, please only write and speak the truth. Have evidence, have statistics. And he supported them to the hilt. He trusted his people. He trusted his managers, his members of his editorial team, publishing team, the cartoonists, the illustrators, the field people. Some of his reporters were agents too. That was the style those days. He put in his personal money in order to ensure that this paper ran. And he used to often say that considering the population of Kerala, the readership of newspapers was much higher and Tamil Nadu was low, and therefore there was scope for that. Scope for what? Scope for publishing papers and also reading more of them. And when competing papers came out from his region, he was very happy about that, for he considered that to be healthy competition. How many people think today? Today we find big establishments going into newer regions and destroying everything that existed before. And then they build their own enterprise or organization. Here was a man who created the ecosystem for many others to follow. He welcomed competition. He did not believe in oligopoly. It was very, very interesting. He had lived in interesting times, but we have to understand those times were also very risky. There are, he invited all the Dalits by giving them some tambulam. Tambulam is, betel nut leaves, coconut and betel nuts. He would invite them with that, ask them to come for functions and festivals. He was very fond of the socially depressed communities. And let us understand that Sir C.P. Ramasamy Iyer was the great person who brought in compulsory education, and this was brought in the Nanjil Nadu region. TVR used to help people pay their school fees. Whoever did not have money, he helped them. There are notes about Umaydano, Ain Tambi, and so many others. There were Christian missionaries those days who wanted Christian theology to be taught, and they wanted the payment to be made for those teachers who were teaching this theology. It was a difficult situation, and TVR helped people to sort that out. Many schools came up because of Dinamalar. Then the drinking water plants, drinking water system, construction of dams, so many things in the southern districts. I suppose the model that TVR used in Nanjil Nadu and in the southern districts were replicated by him and his sons later throughout the landscapes of Tamil Nadu and parts of the country. We can very clearly understand how things had happened. For a railway committee, they wanted to raise money. Everything was ready. Then finally, TVR had said, no, it is not like that. Let us not take money from anybody. If it does not happen properly, people will say that we did it for the purpose of raising money. So let this money not be taken, and money was not accepted. Very interesting. Today there are so many people who collect money for social causes. They are and sometimes not able to fulfill. They'll put the blame on somebody. These are nice people only, but they will not return the money. They will keep it in some deposit and use it for some other purpose. Several struggles had taken place. People would wait for the Dinamalar reporter to come and then put it down. Such an activist newspaper, but that activism was very positive. It was not negative. It was because of the social consciousness that the circulation of the paper had improved. And he had wanted Tamil Nadu to be the name of the old Madras state. He had spoken about it more than 60 years before. He says that language does not grow because of politics, but because of good-minded people who are writers and people of literature or social leaders. Number of Tamil-related conferences were supported by him. Then this subject called Arviyal Tamil was very close to his mind. What is this Arviyal Tamil? See, every language has its own words, but you need words which can be used for today's mathematics, science, and newer terms, especially in a world which is turning more and more international. We will be borrowing and taking things from several countries. And, we need words which are equivalent to them. So, TVR was interested in that. This book also carries a lot of details connected with other publications which had existed at that point of time. And, people are requested to support Tamil language. People are requested to support India. And the power of the pen was brought out very well by TVR. Well, looking at the story of M.G. Ramachandran and Dinamalar, in 1972, at the time when the movie Ulagam Sutrum Valiban had been released, MGR had been expelled from the DMK. He had started the ADMK, AADMK, later it became a bigger name, All India Anna Dravida Munnetra Kalagam, and he was campaigning strenuously. Dinamalar had supported him enormously and did not look for anything in return. The reporters went around with MGR and they brought out a lot of information connected with this campaign. And most of the other publications had been calling AIADMK as an actors' party. It was Dinamalar which gave it a proper political identity in the early days by giving it the regard that it required. And the benevolence of TVR can never be measured. And he did not even want anything in return. When late M.G. Ramachandran had wanted to bring out a special publication, even that was also not looked upon positively because he felt that he was just doing his duty and did not want anything in return. Very interesting. In today's world, we get to see so many scandals connected with media houses. And TVR did not want any of these scandals to come anywhere close to his publication. When we look at even the temples which were left in Nanjil as part of Tamil Nadu and the temples which went into Kerala and the wealth, income and money of the temples, he had made a complete study along with his team, made a presentation and fought for the rights of the temples which were found in Tamil Nadu and ensured that these temples got what had to be got. So one is the income and the properties of the temples. This is on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum is social justice. Many of us always think that the social justice movement completely belonged to the Dravidian fraternity, politically Dravidian in that sense, I mean, and also that the rights of the Tamils and people who fought for the Tamils were only belonging to the Justice Party or the other Dravidian parties or their family of parties. But here, if you come into the life of T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer, you will understand that he was a pioneer in social reform and that he had fought for the rights of the Tamils who lived in India before anybody else. And that has to be brought out all the more. Lots of people are aware of Dinamalar, aware of T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer. I suppose this aspect I have to re-emphasize today, that T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer fought for the rights of the Tamils of India, the Tamils of Nanjil Nadu, their protection. But he did not want to trample upon anybody else. And his form of liking for the language was out of passion about adherence to culture, tradition, and not out of fanaticism or fundamentalism or extremism. That is the fantastic aspect connected with TVR. How can you find somebody like this? And he says why he shifted to shifted to Tirunelveli. And he also wants to only work for the people and nobody else. He could have very easily, supported the ruling establishment and made hay while the sun shone. He did not do that. Does it mean that he was always opposing? No. Irrespective of the stand that he had in his mind, T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer ensured that the paper was centrist and gave a fair space to everybody. The book talks about several situations wherein they come and tell him, no, you should not have written this, you should have written that. He says, well, if that is the case, you give me that information, you get it done, and I shall publish it. And he has done so rightfully. He has also faced a number of litigations, has been successful, and also has been magnanimous in his success. And that is what marks this person. That's what shows him as a great man. See, most of the people will just take away the compensation or will want to show Tom that they're very successful, or they will say they won the case. He says, no, wait, let us handle it in a proper way. And that's very redeeming. There was no vengeance, no jealousy, no hatred, no unnatural competition. He spoke in a fair and crisp manner. He had all the statistics on hand. He would tell his reporters, you stay back there, collect the information, send it to me. He was called Sami. Many of these people have called him Sami. That's the way that he was addressed then, and that was a way of addressing those days. Each of his employees had given him great deal of inputs, and he had to spend a lot of time on those inputs. See, once he says you collect all the information, bring all the statistics, bring it. See, each one will come with a tome of information. It is not easy. There's nothing superficial. If you read Dinamalar, you will take a little longer time to read that paper compared to a few other newspapers. You have to really spend time. I have had a number of opportunities interacting with the reporters and journalists connected with Dinamalar, and I thought this was a unique feature. I'm repeating this actually. But these features have been embedded by the founder. It's a rare combination, a very, very rare thing. And I think the people of Nanjil Nadu have been very lucky to have had the Dinamalar founder to be born amidst them. Otherwise, they may not have smoothly come into Tamil Nadu itself in the first place. While, yes, he wanted to do all these things, but he was not against any of these people from Kerala or from any other part of the country. There is a map. You can see, it's not very clear, I think. Yeah. This map has been published by Dinamalar. This map was brought out in 1954, connected with that region. Every single detail was collected by him, and these details were put to use. There are a lot of people who collect a lot of details. Information is wealth, and that wealth has to be used properly. Correct? Just as how there are people who have huge quantities of wealth, they don't put it to use properly. It is all kept under lock and key or in some deposit, or kept in the most unproductive manner, or in a manner that it cannot be used. But here is this person who ensured that the wealth called information was put to use properly. There are a lot of people who read enormously, collect statistics, but seldom put it to use. I have seen a number of columnists and journalists interviewing They will spend 4 hours, 5 hours to understand. They'll collect 10 to 25 to 30 pages of information, record for 1 or 2 hours. The whole day will be spent. Then finally, when you see, it will be a very tiny piece with hardly any information. And unfortunately, the required information would not have been published at all. I would always wonder why they spent that kind of time and effort. But when we see Dinamalar, those reporters spend very little time. They don't take the time of the parties concerned. But when they publish, it is crisp, it is fantastic, and it is thought provoking. You'll definitely want to do something. Environment has been a favorite subject for them. Duties of people has been a favorite subject for them. And talking about education and healthcare, favorite subject for them. Every road, every railroad, harbor, port, airport, university, infrastructure. Dinamalar was perhaps the first newspaper in the last 100 years to continuously talk about the ecological infrastructure, industrial infrastructure, and common man's infrastructure. All the three. And also social responsibility financially and as thought leaders. That is because of the ethos of TV Ramsubbaiyyer. The vision that this great gentleman had, his fervent plea, how many representations, how many letters, how many disappointments, it did not deter him. How many threats, how many problems, how many shortages. It would not have been very easy. Today we have WhatsApp, I'm speaking with you online. We are using this Atmanirbhar app called Vayam. This Dinamalar was an Atmanirbhar effort those days, and it continues to be because of the ethos of TV Ramsubbaiyyer. Today his sons and grandsons are doing a wonderful job. The entire family is doing a marvelous job, and so are their team members. I have been to the Dinamalar offices at least 100 times, making representations, requesting them to do something. And every time that we went, we were heard and information was sought and it was published, provided it was for the public good. And they also acknowledged the people connected with the work. See, there are some people who will assort and collect information, wealth for public good. After some time, if you see, that publicity or the merit will mostly go up to one person. But here in the case of Dinamalar, TV Ramsubbaiyyer and his team have ensured that everybody is given the due credit and regard. Just as how they believed in this last mile delivery, they also believed that the simple person on the street who provides the information and vital input needs to be recognized, protected, and given the privilege of being heard. It is precisely because of these features that the publication is doing very well today. And it is because of these features not being present in the mainstream media that social media is growing. If the mainstream media gives importance to the small individual voices, they will always continue to rule the roost. And this is something Ramsubbaiyyer had understood, had implemented at a time when social media was absent. So that shows that it was not done just for mere survival, but with the noble intent at the back. And that is what is most important. And that's what is most redeeming. It was only on reading this book that I was able to gather so much of information, and it has given me an opportunity to share this with you. And I'm sure this will help me in my public work also. And it will also help in the public work of everybody, each and every person who's watching this video. And it is precisely for that reason that, dear friends, I want everyone to watch this video. Please share this with everyone, because it's very rare to find somebody of this quality. To know that we have lived at a time when this person had lived, and to read the publication that was brought out by him is, I would say, a matter of good fortune. This book, I wish, maybe there is already, can be translated into English also, because there is so much interesting in this book with regard to district boundaries, with regard to the creation of Kanyakumari district, then the impact wherein, one district had been called Kattabamman district. And thanks to the efforts of Dinamalar, that it became Tirunelveli Kattabamman district. There was a moment and a time in Tamil Nadu when Dindigul became Anna district, then it became Kaidemillat district. And then once again, I suppose it became Dindigul district. And Kanchipuram had become Anna district. So many districts were named after so many people. Of course, today the districts are named only after the headquarters. No longer that. Dinamalar, in its own sweet way, had ensured that names were not tampered with and destroyed. There's one another interesting thing. He talks about big people. He tells his reporters, when somebody is really big news is published about them, after their term is over, their many enemies want to malign them or write something bad about them. But don't waste your time on that. He says, when you have a lot of hair, you put oil. Once you go to Tirupati and remove it and come, you do not put oil to the hair that has been removed. So don't waste your time on that. Then again, news for the common man. Prices of vegetables, small market news that could be useful for the vendors, news that could be useful for people's representatives and politicians. People of the Anjalnad used to get up early in the morning to find out what has happened in the region. Who had been arrested, who had been beaten up, who had been tormented, who had been tortured, so that they will know and they can act accordingly. Similarly, everyone who's taking up social causes in Tamil Nadu were looking up towards this paper. They will share the information and wait for the information to come. And they felt happy about that. On another occasion, with regard to a bank, some information was published. Somebody went to court. So Dinamalar says, TVR had said, it is because of your own advertisement what we had published that this has happened. So somebody had to be smart, somebody had to be very alert. He was very alert, he was very smart, and I suppose a very rare person. It was not that he was spared. In the Kerala High Court, on the 20th of October 1954, a whole day was spent in trying to interrogate him. And again, language, that is the script reformation, was recommended and done by him as early as 1977. And he also did not celebrate his occasions in a very big way. Say any Jubilee of Dinamalar or his own 60, it was all done in a very, very simple style. He had also met people like E.V. Ramasamy Nayakar or Muthuramalinga Devar. Kamaraj had been to his office. MGR had been to his office. very, very, redeeming. On the lighter side, we get to learn about the famous advocate Gundu Vilingi Govindan Pillai. There was an advocate, I believe, those days who would terrorize his opponents with his unique methods. So, this Govindan Pillai in the court had apparently swallowed one bullet and replaced it with another and said, "This bullet will not even enter that gun, and how can you speak about that?" So, therefore, he was known as Gundu Vilingi Govindan Pillai, one who swallowed the bullet. The author has brought in a lot of information connected with such people also. He wanted people who were educated and talented, skilled and noble minded to be part of the political mainstream. This was the wish of T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer, and that wish is getting fulfilled now. We are finding a lot of intelligent and talented people entering politics because of the efforts and the seeds sown by great people like T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer. After having read Dinamalar for years, I suppose a number of talented and well-minded people will have no qualms in joining politics and trying to do good for the people. This was the vision that he had. The vision for India, the vision for Tamil Nadu, the vision for Kanyakumari, the vision for Nanjil Nadu, the vision for Tirunelveli, the vision for the Tamil language, the vision for Hindi, the vision for Sanskrit, or the vision for culture and tradition, or the vision connected with the removal of untouchability. None of these visions contradicted with each other. That was fantastic. And that is what is most important. Rajaji used to say that India was a diverse country and unity in diversity was the greatest merit. And he also said that the society was divided into Shramjivi and Buddhijivi, like how Rahu and Ketu were divided. T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer had understood that very well. He wanted the Shramjivi and Buddhijivi to stay together. He wanted everybody to be talented and skilled. Starting from the weavers, he wanted to ensure that Kadar and the weaving community were kept safe at least for some time. He understood that the power looms will take over. He wanted the children of weavers to be educated so that they will manage. He did not leave any subject. Even the rights of the goldsmiths and gold merchants he has spoken about. He's spoken about so many aspects. A small gist of some of his speeches have been given at the back. Friends, I am but reminded of the book Keynote, which I happened to read as a college-going youngster. This keynote contained a number of speeches of J.R.D. Tata, and he had written a foreword. After reading that book, my impressionable mind came up with some thought processes, came up with some goals. Similarly, this book, Kadal Tamarai, and the life and times of T.V. Ramsubbaiyyer has given me one more refinement, one more thought, or many more thoughts, many more goals. Goals which I think, which can be set in my interest, in the interest of the family, in the interest of the nation, in the interest of every stakeholder. And these interests need not contradict each other. This is what that I have understood. And he has shown us the way how to implement all these things. So he has run his family well. He's brought his children up well. But that did not contradict with regard to the development of Dinamalar. Dinamalar has done very well. But that did not contradict with the well-being of the employees, reporters and staff of Dinamalar. Well, by doing all that, did it contradict with the well-being of his competitors? No, it did not. By speaking for the rights of the Tamils in Nanjil Nadu in Kanyakumari, did he cause any harm for the Malayalis or people of Kerala? No. He did not contradict. While speaking for Tamil, did he burn any effigies? Did he want people to tear Hindi newspapers or rub Hindi alphabets? Definitely not. So by thinking good for one person, it does not mean that you're thinking bad for another person. And by doing one good, it does not mean that another good will get annulled. If you know how to balance and take things forward, I suppose all the goods can become real good for the good people of this country, this good country. And that is something that TV Ramsubbaiyyer has shown us today. He understood that Valamana Tamilagam, a prosperous Tamil Nadu, will add to a Valimayana Bharatam, an energetic and strong India. He felt that the time was there to live for the country, to succeed for the country. For whom am I succeeding? For my country. And when I succeed, my country becomes stronger. So I should find a path in which I should succeed in a particular style so that I become strong, I become resilient, and my country also does become. This is exactly the message of TV Ramsubbaiyyer, the founder of Dinamalar. I'm very, very happy, and it has been my pleasure to speak about the noble founder of Dinamalar after reading his biography, Kadal Tamarai by Sri Muthu Krishna. I'm really grateful and happy to the many who have contributed towards these efforts, this book. And I'm thankful to TV Ramsubbaiyyer for simply because he led a life by leading as a leader, leading by example, and his life has now inspired me, and I'm sure it will inspire the minds of many other people irrespective of their age. And Tamil Nadu and our country will become healthier, stronger, and more prosperous as a consequence of the same. Very rarely do we come across such gems like the Samantakamani or the Chintamani. This gem amongst people, this lotus amongst flowers, has contributed towards the well-being of the Tamil land and also the well-being of India. Vande Matram. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me this opportunity to be in front of you today on behalf of the VerandahClub.com. I wish you all the best, and I request each one of you to get a book for yourself, read it, and lead by example. That will be the best tribute that we can give to this great man. Thank you. Namaskaram. Vanakkam.